Hey guys, and we're here to answer the one question that you clicked on this video for, and that is, what's the best time to do plein air? Let's start from the beginning of the day. Hello you guys, it's your girl Becky, your next door soulful creative. And I really had this question a lot in my head when I first started off sketching, which is, if I'm gonna sketch outdoors, what time of the day should I go? Like, where do I set up? Is there going to be a lot of people around? What's going to be the most comfortable for me? And this is kind of like the questions that we are going to address today. And let's get on with it. All right, first and foremost, let's take a seat. So mornings are great for sketching, in my opinion, because, well, I'm also a morning person, so I think that helps. But mainly because, like, there's not a lot of people in the morning. It's kind of quiet. Like, of course, you get people out and about walking, but generally it is a lot less crowded than it is during like lunchtime, for example, or in the evening where people tend to do their evening strolls. So I would usually go for mornings, but that's just a personal thing. And it's really because not only do you get all these like interesting nature sounds that are still happening in the morning, but also because it's quieter and the sun is going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. So if anything, your subject is going to get even more lit up, which is something that maybe you can consider to do if you're like a beginner, because then you can kind of like see your subject a little bit more clearly as you progress to your sketch. So if you're in the middle of the daytime and you're like kind of in hazy weather, something like this, it doesn't really matter which time of the day you paint, because the lighting is going to be fairly equal. If you're a beginner, equal lighting is what you want to go for, because it means that the lightings, the shadows and stuff, it won't change that quickly. And you can probably have the same view for maybe about an hour before the lighting and everything starts to change. And maybe that's great for you, and you should try that and see if it works. I would recommend equal lighting of the day starts maybe around like right after lunch, maybe between 3 to 5 p.m. is generally good. And we're talking about a time where like 6-7 p.m. is the sunset, and then like sunrise is about 6-7 a.m. Between 10 to 11 or 9 to 11, if the sunrise is 6 to 7 a.m. is also great. So basically you just want to find that like middle slot between noon, where the sun is the highest, and either sunrise or sunset, and you just want to find that middle spot. And the longer you go into summer, or I guess the more summer it is, the longer that time span is going to be. And during the winter, that time span is going to be really, really, really short, depending on where you live and what your sun is like. So trying to figure out which time of the day to sketch is like, it's quite tricky, because there's just so much factors that come into play. Like, you want to pay attention to the lighting, you want to pay attention to like your surroundings, you also want like a really pretty view with really good lighting, and that usually comes during like sunrise or sunset time. Of course, when you're sketching in like smack dab in the middle of the afternoon, like at 12 noon, where the sun is right above you, first, there's like no interesting shadows, because the shadows are just all top down, and therefore you don't get a lot of shadow fall off. But secondly, it's just really, really, really hot. And I don't know what the weather is like where you guys are at, but here in Hong Kong, it's currently summer. So when the sun is out, it's really out, and it does want you to know. And that's why I tend to like avoid those times, even though I have like a lot of opportunity to sketch during my lunch break. But I would tend to pick somewhere indoors at this time of the year, just so my whole self doesn't melt off. So this is a sunset scene, and as you can probably see, like the colors, actually I'm not sure if you can see, the colors are actually quite soft and quite pretty. If you look a little bit at like the skies over there, there is some like hues of orange and stuff, and really that's like the pretty colors that you can capture during sunset. But the downside is the sun disappears really, really, really quickly during these times. So what I usually do if I want to capture a sunset is I actually just take this camera and just go out and take photographs, because I am not skilled or talented enough, or well, maybe I just haven't reached that level where I can actually effectively capture a scene in like 10 to 15 minutes, because that's just how really quickly the sun goes from sunrise to sunset. But of course, it depends on where you are. I've heard of like stories where people living in like Iceland, for example, or like that part of the world where the sunrise or sunset lasts for like an hour or hours on end. Finland, I think probably the North Pole and South Pole. Although if you're from the North Pole or South Pole watching this, let me know. That is some really interesting plein air experience that you can get there. But yeah, anyway, so that is like the characteristics of sunrises and sunsets. So I think that's just what you need to keep in mind if you want to capture really pretty colors and really pretty orange hues, but are also in the mood to like race and rush. One thing you can also do is sketch at night, which I haven't done before, because what happens at night is you get all these like artificial lighting, and I tend to prefer natural lighting over artificial lighting. The second thing is, the darker it gets, the more you need kind of like a flashlight situation. Otherwise, it just becomes like too dark for you to sketch, and you might just read like all your colors wrong. So, I mean, it can be done. I don't generally recommend it. I really commend people who do, and who knows, maybe I'll give it a try one of these days, because it is significantly cooler at night, so maybe I'll give it a try one of these days. I mean, I've never done it before, so I guess it is interesting to try, right? All in all though, there is no right or wrong time of the day to sketch. I think it just depends on what your preference is. I think if you want to capture a subject in a certain way, this is the same thing that goes for photography, and I really just know these principles because I take a lot of photographs, is that you kind of want to know where the sun is coming up from and where the sun is setting towards. And really what you want to capture is like, do you know the location well enough to figure out where the shadows are going to hit? Like, do you know where is the east and west of your subject and what that's going to look like? So for example, if you want to capture like the sun itself and you're in a location that's facing the east, then you need to do sunrise, because you can't do sunset, because then you don't get the sun, like it's going to set like behind you and you won't be able to see it. So I used to live in a university that faced the east, and it was really pretty. It was like by the sea, and I could capture really great sunrise photos, but not sunset, because the sun rises from the east. And this is just something to keep in mind. If you want really dramatic long shadows, so usually that is like towards sunset, that's where you get it. Just like really different characteristics depending on the time of the day that you're going for. And if you want, actually, it's quite an interesting challenge to be able to sketch a subject in different times of the day. I know a lot of people at Warrior Painters have done it. I know Nathan Fowkes has done it as well from his office window. So it's always worth to experiment. Again, there's really no right and wrong, because the purpose of a sketch is you want to capture a moment. And as long as that moment is happening, which is happening because you can't like not exist and sketch it, then you're already doing the thing and you're doing an awesome thing. All right, that's going to be it from me today. Let me know down below what your favorite time of the day to sketch is, because I would really love to know. Like I said in the beginning, mine is the morning, but yours might be a different time of day, so just let me know. I think at this point I've sketched throughout different times of the day, so I'm just really trying to go with the flow and just avoid the heat and avoid the rain and avoid mosquitoes. That's like my only criteria in sketching outdoors now. All right, and speaking of mosquitoes, I'm getting bit by them, so I'm gonna head off and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.